Some streets just look safe, you know? Perfect lawns, mailboxes in a line, the smell of fresh-cut grass on Saturdays. My parents called it peace and quiet. I called it finally hitting the kind of neighborhood I'd been doodling in my notebook since I was 8. Fall of 2011, we rolled into 2410 Willow Bend Drive. The house, pale yellow, 2 stories, peeling white trim, wooden floors that groaned under your feet, windows that rattled when the wind blew. My room faced the side yard, where a wall of scraggly shrubs shoved up against the siding. Beyond that, a tall wooden fence cut us off from the neighbor. That neighbor, Mr. Briggs. My mom always said his name in a weird mix of polite and nervous. Quiet, Mr. Briggs. He never waved when you drove by. He never left except to mow his lawn, which was already perfect. I only saw glimpses at first. Tall, thin, gray hair slicked back, expression like stone. 9 days in, I was sketching the houses across the street. Lamplight made everything golden. Then, tap, tap, tap. Soft. Intentional. Against the glass to my right. I spun around. Nothing. The shrubs didn't move. I shrugged it off. Next night, same thing. 3 slow taps. Hand hovered over the blinds, but I couldn't bring myself to peek. At breakfast, I mentioned it. Old houses make noises, my dad said, coffee in hand. Shifts, but I knew. This wasn't the house. Mom said, probably just branches. We'll trim them. They never did. The taps kept coming. Same time, every few nights. Faint, sometimes louder. We started waiting, listening. 2 weeks later, my little brother Luke knocks. You hear that too? Yeah, I said. It was at mine now too. That night we sat together in my room, eyes on the window. 11, 12, 3 taps, pause, then a 4th. Slow. Measured. By Friday, it escalated. Pounding now. Deliberate. Luke yelled from his room, "Cut it out!" I didn't move, thought he meant I was joking. Morning came, I found glass marbles, a few smooth white pebbles under my window. We didn't own marbles. Neighborhood kids didn't either. Something was lurking, just out of sight. Luke and I started watching the fence, narrow gap between warped boards. One afternoon, shadow pacing in the neighbor's yard. Mr. Briggs, hands clasped behind his back, muttering, pausing, staring straight at us through the gap. Why is he looking at us like that? Luke whispered. Don't look back, I said. Mom brushed it off. He's just eccentric. But he was watching. The knocking stopped for a few nights when Grandpa stayed. He could fix anything with a hammer and duct tape. As soon as Grandpa left, taps came back. Faster. Sharper. One night, scratching at the glass, dragging along the wall, faint reflection from my desk lamp, outline of a man's head. Watching, not touching, just watching. Luke nodded when I told him. I think he's trying to see inside. Patterns emerged. Fridays, Sundays, 11 to 1 a.m., rustling in the shrubs, footsteps, then a storm night, wind lashing, rain pouring, wet thud against siding, dragging along the wall, lightning flashed. Mr. Briggs, soaked, standing between the fence and shrubs, staring. Dad finally said maybe he'd talk to him, but it sounded empty. Week later, walking from school, he's in his driveway, eyes following. That night, marbles again. Luke got a baseball bat, I kept a flashlight. Neither of us slept. Late March, windows cracked open, 2 a.m., whisper, Ethan. Not a dream. Glass, outside. Bang! Full force, rattling the window. Luke yelled, "Get away from my window!" Footsteps moving away, deliberate. Morning, wet notebook paper under his window. Messy scribble. "Keep away from the fence." Mom called the landlord. 2 weeks later, boxes loaded, moving truck ready. Last night there, Taps came. I didn't look. Didn't need to. New place, just a few miles away, but felt worlds apart. No tall fence, no overgrown shrubs. Luke rode his bike without checking over his shoulder. For weeks, nothing. Then, late April, Mom sees the new renters of our old house. They found a note under their door. Keep your kid away from their windows. Last warning. Everything clicked. The marbles, pacing, noises, stopping when Grandpa was there. None of it random. Mr. Briggs had been watching us night after night, inches from my bed. Rain, standing still, soaked. I shiver thinking how many nights I'd been asleep, unaware. Weeks later, I couldn't sleep without checking locks twice. Luke kept blinds closed always. I avoided windows after dark. Mr. Briggs never showed again. Maybe the move broke his obsession. Maybe he found someone new. I still sketch houses, never at night, never by a window. Sometimes late at night, the street quiet. I swear I hear it. Tap, tap, tap. Memory maybe, but people like him leave marks. Quiet marks. Invisible. Permanent. Some dangers don't scream. They creep. Test boundaries. Watch. Trust your gut. That uneasy voice isn't paranoia, it's survival. Sometimes it's the only thing between you and too late.
Sometimes starting over feels like stepping into a fresh photo. Clean edges, soft light, nothing left from the old mess. That's what I told myself when I left Seattle for Portland Ridge in early fall 2013, about a year later than I'd planned. Life there had gotten fuzzy, friends drifting, work dull, and a breakup leaving me exposed. I rented a tiny apartment in a slightly beat-up 3-story building on the west side. It wasn't much, but it had character. Rooftop garden tangled with bean vines, hallways smelling faintly like coffee and rain, balconies facing each other like mirrors. My unit faced east, letting the morning sun pour in. First night, unpacking and takeout. Second night, Avery Sullivan. I was stacking boxes when a voice drifted from the balcony opposite mine. "You're new here, right?" I slid the glass door open. Leaning on his railing was a tall guy, late 30s, calm smile. "I moved in a few days ago," I said. "Logan Reed," he said. "Night security, weird hours, don't mind me." Weeks passed, nothing weird at first. He held doors, waved from his balcony, watered a plant I left outside. Thought he was thoughtful. Then September hit. Something felt off. Rooftop, photographing the sunset, framing the sky. Footsteps behind me. Logan. "I saw your curtains move," he said. I laughed nervously. "You can see inside my apartment?" He just smiled. No answer. A week later, doormat shifted. Balcony chair moved. I tried to shrug it off. Then came the rainy night. 12:20 a.m., editing photos. Tap, tap, tap on the balcony door. Heart racing. I peeked. Logan, soaked, holding one of my prints. "You dropped this." I locked the door, whispered to my brother, "Call the police." By the time they came, balcony empty, lights off. 2 weeks later, he avoided me, but I'd catch glimpses, night shadows, lingering far enough to act casual. One night, coming home late, eyes on me, standing at the end of the hallway, silent. Curtains closed, camera bag locked, went away. Then, the envelope. Saturday morning, photo of me asleep in bed. No note. Next day, another envelope. Short message. "You look peaceful when you're not worrying." Adrenaline turned to clarity. I packed, left everything. Furniture, plants, dishes. Locked the door and moved to a north side sublet. Logan never contacted me again, but
Months later, passing buildings with facing balconies, my chest tightened. Instinctively, curtains closed. Safety isn't about locks or keys. It's noticing small invasions before they escalate. Trusting your gut isn't paranoia. It's survival. If you'd asked me before my 18th birthday what scared me the most, I'd have said auditions. I lived for theater. The lights, the smell of stage makeup, the energy of a packed house. But auditions, they made my stomach twist. I didn't know yet that fear could be quiet, patient, just watching. Mom wanted my birthday at home. I wanted a karaoke bar. She promised music, friends, and her triple-layer chocolate cake. By 8:05 p.m. that Saturday, the living room was full. Music, laughter, pizza, frosting. Safe. Halfway through my first song, I saw him. Beyond the porch lights, a tall man at the edge of the yard. Hoodie, hands in pockets, head tilted like he was listening. I didn't know him. He didn't move. I whispered, "Mom, do you know that guy outside?" She glanced. Probably just walking by. He didn't walk by. 12 minutes, same blank stare, tracking me the whole time until I closed the curtains. Next day, across the street, leaning on a fence of an empty house, no phone, no cigarette, just watching. I told myself he was harmless. People linger sometimes. But deep down, something was off. A week later, taking out trash after dark, October 2014, chill biting my hands. By the fence. Movement, half hidden behind slats. Hello? I said, voice shaking. No answer. Back inside, heart pounding. Told Dad, maybe a new neighbor. New neighbors say hello. Didn't feel like that. 2 nights later, the tapping started. Window. No trees. Deliberate, spaced knocks. I froze. Peeked. Nothing. Morning. Faint boot prints in the dirt below. Worst part, he knew when I was alone. One night, karaoke headphones on, practicing. Movement outside. Right against the glass. Breath fogging the pain. I stumbled back, mic stand toppled. Dad ran in, looked outside, gone. Afternoon, Mrs. Whitaker at the mailbox. That man's been pacing between our houses at night, always watching your windows. Dad called the police. Officer took a statement. No proof, not much we can do. The curtains stayed closed, even in daylight. He never stopped. Alley, driveway, always watching, silent. The final straw, 3:10 a.m. Doorbell camera pinged. Dad checked. There he was, on the porch, staring into the camera, holding a small voice recorder. Police confiscated it, played it, grainy, unmistakable. My voice, singing in my bedroom. 2 weeks later, we moved. Years later, I still think about him. Never shouted, never broke in, never touched me, but filled the house with fear. Lesson: danger doesn't always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it's just a quiet presence that won't leave. Trust that uneasy feeling before waiting for proof. I'd never been much of a risk taker. At 25, fresh out of grad school, first salaried job, I convinced myself I was ready to live on my own terms. Spring 2017, that means a small third-floor walk-up in Maplewood Heights, Chicago. Not fancy, scuffed hardwood floors, thin walls, tiny kitchen, barely big enough to turn around in. I told myself it had character, creaked the right way. From my bedroom window, tree-lined street on one side, narrow alley on the other. Across the alley, older brick apartment,
taller, rusted fire escapes zigzagging down. Most windows stayed dark, curtains tightly drawn, except one. Second floor, center left. Half-open blinds. First night, uneasy feeling. Someone hidden in shadow, just far enough to be unseen. Landlord, Mr. Harris, late 50s, faint tobacco smell. When I asked about the unit across the alley, some guy named Brooks. Keeps to himself, pays rent. Don't think I've seen him much. I tried to shrug it off. Long hours at the firm left little energy to worry, but late nights drafting floor plans, my eyes kept drifting. Sometimes the slats shifted, just slightly. Then, rainy Thursday night in April, 11:55 p.m. Closing curtains. Flicker of white light like a camera flash from that window. Hand froze on the cord, blinds stilled, room dark, heart racing. Pulse slowed eventually, but fear stayed. Next morning, envelope under door. One black and white photo, me, the night before, bent over laptop, desk lamp casting light, taken from outside. No note. Coffee went cold while I stared at it. I told myself it was a joke. Bored teen, street photographer. Angle precise, intimate. Didn't tell anyone. Folded it, shoved it in the drawer, tried to forget. Week later, escalation. Doormat nudged. 12:30 a.m., 3 soft taps at the door. Hallway empty. Locked windows, double-checked latches, curtains closed, still felt the weight of those blinds across the alley. Third incident, direct. Folding laundry in the basement Sunday afternoon. A man descending stairs. Tall, lean, thinning hair, faded teal jacket. New hair, low, friendly, practiced. Just a few months, I said, cautious. Stepped closer. You keep your blinds open a lot. I smiled tight, finished folding, left. That night, secured curtains. Next morning, halfway open. I knew. Third night, phone flashlight ready. 2:05 a.m. Scrape of window sliding upward. Pale fingers curled over sill. I shouted, grabbed the desk lamp, and hurled it. Fingers gone. Footsteps retreating into the alley. Police found no forced entry. Latch intact. Suggested secondary lock. Left. 2 days later, packed 2 suitcases, left deposit, moved in with a coworker. Didn't return for the rest of my things until daylight with Dad's help. Even away, pattern clear. Open blinds, moved doormats, nighttime taps. A slow escalation. A week later, landlord called. You're not coming back? No. Brooks moved out 2 days after you left. Didn't tell anyone, just vanished. Months later, walking a quiet street. Second floor window, another building. Half-open blinds, shadow behind. Heart jumped. Told myself it wasn't him. But after seeing a face in the dark once, you can never be sure. Sometimes I dream of that window. Blinds lifting slowly, pale face appearing, a faint smile, waiting to be noticed. Waking up, I check the lock anyway. Boundaries are your first defense. Ignore small violations, and danger can be inside before you even realize it.
Looking back, I realize I mistook quiet for safety. January 2015, right after a long, draining breakup, I needed somewhere no one knew my name. Moved to Spokane, Washington, far enough from family to feel invisible, close enough to get back fast if needed. Second-floor apartment in a small U-shaped building. Balcony gave me a full view of the parking lot, every car, every person. Felt in control. Inside, beige carpet, humming fridge, bland white walls. But it was mine. First time in years I could place furniture wherever I wanted. Oliver, my cat, immediately claimed the sun patch on the living room floor. Second day, I met the guy living below, carrying a box up the stairs. "Name's Derek," he said, leaning on railing, limping slightly. Scratchy smoker voice. "You'll like it here. Quiet place." At first, seemed normal. Waving, giving tomatoes, helping shovel snow. But I noticed, always outside when I came or went. 6:30 a.m., he's on his porch with coffee. Back after 9 p.m., checking mail. Once, 1:45 a.m., after a late shift, shadow in his lit window, just standing. Month in, balcony door unlocked. Blamed fatigue. Then again. Third time, my shoes neatly outside the door. Oliver couldn't have done it. Started double-checking locks. First real fear was February. Woke to crunch of snow. Blinds closed. Figure in the lot, staring up. Shoulders, coat. Derek. Didn't move. Crouched on floor until he vanished. Told myself I imagined it. Talked to neighbor Linda. "He's out there a lot, just stares. I keep blinds closed all the time." Should have called the police, broken lease. Instead, avoided the balcony, parked far, walked straight upstairs. March, sunset. Groceries in hand, keys in other. Froze. Derek on my balcony. Calm smile. "Just making sure your door's secure." Nodded, locked door. Sleep didn't come. Next morning, property manager. "We can't accuse anyone without proof. Just keep doors locked." Police said the same. Started sleeping with chair wedged under balcony door. Oliver twitching at sounds I couldn't hear. Waited out lease. 2 weeks later, envelope taped to door. Polaroid of my car in the parking lot, taken from my bedroom window. Back said, "You're safe," while I'm watching. Air went out of me. Held the photo for hours. How many more? Shoved it in a drawer, called my sister, hinted I might move. That night, 3:20 a.m., slow, crunching footsteps. Oliver bolted under bed, didn't look. Morning, decision made. Called in sick, packed essentials, left furniture, waited for Derek's car to leave, moved quietly. Never returned. Friend's place in a nearby town. Weeks later, manager confirmed Derek moved out shortly after I left. Years later, still twinge of fear crossing a parking lot at night. Check locks repeatedly, even alone. Never saw Derek again. Don't know if he watched others, but that Polaroid, still vivid. Safety isn't quiet buildings or friendly neighbors. It's noticing small violations, unlocked doors, misplaced items, shadows in the wrong place. Trust your instincts. They're almost always right.
Some winters hit harder than others. January 2016, Richmond, Virginia. A cold that sinks into your bones and refuses to leave. I was 32, living alone for the first time in years. Third floor walk-up at Harrison Creek Apartments, East Side. Not fancy. Faded carpeted hallways, flickering fluorescent lights, lobby smelling faintly of damp paper. I'd moved after quitting my hotel job downtown. Told people I needed a change. Truth? I was drained. Too many double shifts, too many strangers yelling, too many nights walking home in the dark feeling like I was treading water. Apartment small, manageable on bartending wages. Thought it'd be a place to breathe. Richmond winters make you second-guess leaving the house. But job didn't care. Leave bar past midnight, coat tight, weaving through half-frozen puddles. That's when I first noticed Landon, unit next to mine. Late 40s, gaunt, eyes always looking just behind me. Seen him in passing, nothing more than hay. But one night,
11:50 p.m. Found him barefoot by the mailboxes. Jeans wet, hair plastered to forehead. Got $10 I could borrow? Flat. Don't have it, I muttered, shifting my bag. Tone changed instantly. You think you're better than me? He hissed, leaning close, wet tobacco smell. I stepped around him, climbed stairs, heartbeat loud. Slow, heavy footsteps followed. Locked door, silence. Next morning, told landlord Marlene, tired looking. You're not the first, she said. Complaints, hanging around lot, bothering people for money, women especially. Don't engage if you can avoid it. Her words stuck. Week later, saw him twice. Dumpster, stairwell. Eyes tracked me both times. Then came the downpour. 11:40 p.m., parking lot 2 rows away. Crouched between cars, then stood, grinning faintly. You didn't call the cops, did you? Voice carried over rain. Go home, Landon. Stepped closer. This is my building too. You can't push me out. I splashed through puddles, keys clattering, slammed lobby door. Minutes later, 3 deliberate thuds from walls separating our units. Silence. Called the police that night. 20 minutes later, he vanished. Young officer, we know him. Arrested before for trespassing and meth. Call immediately if he threatens you again. For days, kept head down. Signs lingered. Cigarette butts. Faint smoke. 3 nights later, walking across slick lot. Footsteps splashing behind me. Turned, Landon charging, teeth clenched, eyes wide. Didn't wait. Sprint to entrance. Shoved door open, keys clattering. Police arrived minutes later. Cuffed, leaning against car hood. Also violated a restraining order from another tenant. Never saw him again. Blinds stayed closed. Marlene confirmed he moved out or was forced to leave. Impact lingered. Months later, felt watched in the lot. Wet footsteps behind me, pulse racing. Years later, still picture him barefoot at the mailboxes, staring like I'd trespassed. That winter taught me, fear isn't just danger, it's awareness. You never truly know your neighborhood. People carry hidden lives next door. Sometimes those lives spill over in ways you can't control. Trust the warning signs. If someone makes your skin crawl, don't ignore it. Safety isn't politeness. It's creating distance from danger before it reaches you.
Some places feel older than they look. Not just the creaking stairs or uneven floors, but the way the air seems to hold on to the past. Concord, New Hampshire, September 2017. I just turned 31, moved into a 1-bedroom in a 3-story brick building with 6 apartments, narrow hallways smelling faintly of varnish and dust. Shared basement with wire mesh storage cages. Day I moved in, met Owen Price, the guy living directly above me. Tall, solid, weathered hands, cigarette tucked behind his ear. Need a hand? He asked, lifting my box like it weighed nothing. Don't mind the creaks at night. This place is older than both of us put together. Nodded and left. I thought it decent. First weeks, normal enough. Heard footsteps overhead, TV humming, phone chatter. Kept to himself. Then small things started shifting. Almost dismissible, but creeping. Silver bracelet from my grandmother went missing. Found a week later in the kitchen drawer. Throw blanket neatly folded. Coffee mug rotated. Tiny changes, but a creeping unease grew. Late October, basement visit. Dim, flickering bulb, cold, damp. My cage, 3rd on left. Deep scratches around keyhole. 1 box open. Coat on the floor. Frozen. Told myself mistake. Mentioned casually to Clara, downstairs neighbor. Owen's always down there. Half the time just stands listening. You can hear everything. People moving, talking, furniture. That night, pacing footsteps above. Week later, 12:45 a.m., faint metallic scraping, like key in front door. Peephole, hallway, empty.
Told landlord, Mr. Hargrove. Owen used to have spare keys. Promised to change locks, but tone uneasy. 2 nights later, working late, Owen moving above, supposedly out of town. Heavy footsteps, chair scrape, basement door clang. I went down. Shadows. Him. In my storage cage. Padlock open. Boxes torn. Flipping through old photos. Studying them. Floorboard creaked. Our eyes locked. "You shouldn't be down here this late," he said softly. Ran, locked door, called the police. Apartment dark. No forced entry. The old key counted as legal access. Next evening, envelope under the door. Inside, my silver bracelet and a Polaroid of me asleep, head toward window. Back. "You looked peaceful." Left immediately to stay with a coworker. Couch, dishes, plants, abandoned. 2 trips. Basement chills still linger. Quiet hours before dawn, I swear I hear slow key scraping. Never ignore the smallest signs of intrusion. Safety isn't something you get back. It's something you guard from the first moment it's threatened.
Some places just feel slower in the fall. Providence, Rhode Island, 2020. Waterman Street. Not flashy, not run down, just old brick. Character in every creak of the stairs. Faint smell of damp wood and smoke lingering in the halls. My roommates, Leela, Aaron, and I, mid-20s, juggling jobs and classes, barely keeping it together. And downstairs, Mr. Harlow. Thin, pale, ghost-like, gray hoodie, no matter the weather. Invisible at first, but not really. Noticed everything. "You don't get home until pretty late on Fridays," he muttered once in the hallway. Another time, after laughter with Leela and Aaron, he said something about how it sounded different when I wasn't around, as if our voices had secrets. I shrugged it off. Weird guy. Harmless, maybe. But that watchful way of him. Fog creeping in from the river. Slow. Quiet. Unsettling. One night, 8:15 p.m. Apartment door unlocked. Leela swore she locked it. Aaron out of town. Nothing gone, except a coffee mug, moved from sink to table. Heart sank. And then the tapping. 3 soft knocks on the wall he shared with us. Pause. 2 more. Like a code. Muted TV, listened. Silence afterward, heavier than the knocks. It wasn't just once, almost every night after that. Saturday, mailbox run. Ran into Harlow in the lobby, leaning against the wall like he was waiting. "You work late, don't you?" "Yeah, sometimes," I said warily. "Must be hard walking up those dark stairs alone," he whispered, voice low, sliced through me. I nodded and got out of there fast. Worst night, Leela and Aaron out. Around 11:35 p.m., brushing teeth. Faint click of front door latch. Breath caught. Peeked around the corner. Door cracked. Half of his pale face in the sliver of space. "Claire, you awake?" whispered. Muscles froze. "Get out!" I shouted, voice cracking. He didn't move for a second, just stared, then stepped back and vanished down the stairs. Police called immediately. Apartment searched. Nothing. No forced entry. Nothing stolen. Days later, foggy, wet weather. Fresh footprints on fire escape outside the kitchen window. Stopped just short of the sill. Not maintenance. 3:10 a.m., bedroom window screen sliding upward. Curtains shifted. Pulled them back. There he was. Inches from glass. Soaked, eyes wide, unblinking. Scream ripped out. He flinched and scrambled. metallic rattle of fire escape echoing behind him. Police found him later hiding in the basement maintenance shed, flashlight in hand, small camera. Arrested for trespassing, harassment, unlawful surveillance. Evicted. Building felt quieter, but not safer. Months later, I still wake, thinking I hear those 3 slow knocks. Lesson learned. Danger isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet, between the knocks. The things you feel more than you see. Trust instincts. Small signs matter. Protect yourself. No apartment is just a building. No neighbor is just a face in the hallway. Sometimes safety is listening before the quiet becomes a scream.
When I moved into that old red brick complex in Dayton, I wasn't expecting much. I was 24, broke, working part-time at a hardware store just to scrape by. Rent? Cheap. $650 a month for a tiny one-bedroom with peeling paint on the stairs and a mildew smell that seemed to soak into everything. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The building sat close to the train tracks, so spring nights carried that damp, rusty smell. At first, I mostly kept to myself. Work, sleep, repeat. But living next to Randy Holcomb, that quickly became impossible to ignore. Randy was late 30s, stocky, shaved head that gleamed under the dim hallway lights, voice low and deep. Just hearing him speak could make you tense. At first, it was only noise, music blasting at strange hours, doors slamming, muffled yelling through the thin walls. I ran into his girlfriend in the stairwell once. She was young, mid-20s, dark eyes that refused to meet mine. She whispered something that stuck with me. If he talks to you, don't argue, just agree. I didn't understand then how much I'd come to regret hearing that. Randy's presence started creeping into every part of my life. One night in early May, I came home around 1:30 a.m. Parking lot empty, a lone street lamp flickering above, and there he was, standing between 2 cars, smoking, watching me climb the stairs like he was studying my every move. "Evening," I said, trying to sound casual. He didn't respond, just held my gaze. Over the next few weeks, he was everywhere. Laundry room, mailbox area, leaning against the railing outside my door. His questions, strange, unsettling. "You live alone, right?" "Yeah." "Good. No one to slow you down." I laughed nervously once. There was no humor in his eyes. Just something cold. Then came the nights that really shook me. Around 2 a.m., I'd hear him pacing, muttering, laughing at nothing. One night, muffled screaming through the walls, followed by a crash, like furniture tipping over. Phone in hand, I debated calling the cops. Then silence. The next morning, his girlfriend was hauling a black trash bag into her car. She caught me watching, slammed the trunk, and drove off. I felt trapped, powerless, living with fear just behind the thin walls. A couple nights later, coming home from work, I saw him crouched by the dumpster. He straightened when he noticed me, gave a faint grin. "You work late, huh?" "Yeah, late nights can be dangerous," I replied. His voice was casual, but his eyes, they never lied. Then, just before sunrise 3 days later, pounding on his door woke me. Police. Shouting. Forced entry. Rumors spread through the building like wildfire. The truth? Randy had killed his girlfriend sometime after midnight, dismembered her, and dumped her near the train tracks. Literally the same night I'd seen him outside the dumpster. I kept replaying every detail.
His strange questions, the silence between noises, how he seemed to be everywhere at once. That wall between us? Paper thin. I could have been next. After Randy was arrested and evicted, the building grew quieter. But that creeping fear, it never left. Every slam, every muffled argument behind the walls made me freeze. Living next to danger doesn't always look like violence. Sometimes it's the quiet, the laughter in the middle of the night, a whispered warning, a cold, unreadable gaze. If something feels off, trust it. Don't brush it off. Speak up. Sometimes your instincts are the only thing standing between normal life and something much darker.
Moving to Madison felt like a fresh start. After years hopping between cramped apartments and freelance gigs in bigger cities, I finally found a place that didn't feel like chaos waiting to happen. Faded brick building, cheap rent, tucked close enough to downtown that I could walk to coffee shops without getting run over by traffic. I'm Rachel Monroe, 28, an illustrator who spends most of her time in her own head, but craves connection. The first thing I noticed when I stepped into the apartment was Cinnamon, the bakery downstairs. It made me smile. The day I moved in, I met Alex. Third floor, just down the hall. Tall, quiet, voice smooth like late-night radio DJ. He helped me carry my heavier boxes inside, casual small talk, polite, measured. Genuine, maybe, but something in it made me pause. He said most people don't stay long in the building. I laughed it off, thinking it was a local joke or a warning I didn't want to hear. Over the next few weeks, Alex was everywhere. Morning coffee on my doorstep, little sketches slipped under my door with notes, "This reminded of you." Sweet, almost romantic. We talked in the hallway for hours. Art, music, movies, everything. But then I started noticing things. On late nights at my drawing desk, I'd glance out the window and see him on his balcony, smoking, silent, staring, always watching. He said he didn't sleep much. And somewhere in that quiet kindness, unease began to creep in. Something wasn't right. One night, I heard soft humming outside my door. Not knocking, just humming. Curiosity and nerves made me peek through the peephole. There he was, standing, silent, staring. The humming stopped the moment I moved away. I didn't open the door. A few days later, I had dinner with a coworker I had just met. The next morning, a note slipped under my door. I don't like him. I hadn't told Alex about anyone. How did he know? The charm that once felt comforting now felt like a trap. Alex seemed to know me in ways no one else did. He told me once, "We're the only two real people in this building, Rachel. Everyone else is just noise." I laughed nervously, but inside, the walls were closing in. One rainy evening, my internet went out. I knocked on his door, and he offered me access to his Wi-Fi. His apartment was dimly lit by a single lamp, shadows stretching across the walls. That's when I saw them. Dozens of charcoal portraits, neatly pinned. All of me. Some recent, some older, some even predated my move-in. One portrait showed me asleep, eyes closed, peaceful. My breath caught. He smiled gently. "You're beautiful when you dream," he said softly. I made some excuse and left as fast as I could. That night, I pushed my desk against the door, heart hammering. The next morning, taped to my door, a single flower and a note. "You don't need to be afraid. You belong here with me." The building still smelled faintly of cinnamon, but I couldn't breathe without feeling watched. Every time I turned, Alex seemed to know what I was thinking, what I planned,
When I mentioned moving, his smile flickered with something I couldn't read. One night, I caught him standing outside my door, hands folded, silent. I whispered through the crack, "Please, leave me alone." He didn't answer, tilted his head like he was listening to secrets no one else could hear. I moved out, changed my number, routines, everything. Miles away, safe. But even now, when it's quiet, I feel it. The weight of unseen eyes, that impossible, watchful gaze. Sometimes, small notes slip under my door, unsigned, but unmistakably his. Kindness that feels like control isn't kindness. Boundaries are sacred. If you ever feel that creeping sense of being watched, don't ignore it. Protect yourself before the line between concern and obsession disappear completely.
I've always thought home was supposed to feel safe, somewhere your heart slows, your shoulders relax, your worries finally take a back seat. But in the fall of 2009, my family moved into a 2-story rental on Hawthorne Lane in Burlington, Vermont, and I learned the hard way. Sometimes home feels like the exact opposite. Cold, unfamiliar, full of shadows you can't explain. I was 12. My parents were hopeful about this fresh start. After a year of bouncing between apartments, this house, peeling white paint, creaky porch, seemed perfect. Bigger than anything we'd had before. A big yard, a basement my dad promised he'd someday turn into a workshop. The neighborhood was quiet, polite neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. None of the chaos of our old place. At least, that's how it seemed. I remember the first night. After unpacking, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the faint hum of the heater. The house smelled like fresh paint and dust, but there was something else, something cold. When I stepped into the hallway, I felt it, an invisible weight wrapping around me. I tried to shake it off, told myself it was just my imagination. Our next-door neighbor was Mr. Benson. My mom met him while we were moving boxes. Friendly, she said, but his stare, it lingered, intense, uncomfortable. Dad joked, calling him that clock guy, saying he probably had dozens of ticking clocks in the basement. I didn't think much of it at first, just another quiet neighbor. Then things started feeling off. A few weeks later, my cousins, Jamie and Sam, were over for a sleepover. We were packed into my room playing video games. Normal night. But then just as the clock hit midnight, we heard it. A laugh. Strange. Forced. Wrong. Like someone trying and failing to sound amused. Jamie froze. "Did you hear that?" I nodded, eyes glued to the dark window. Outside, the backyard was empty, just shadows, wind shaking branches. Then the laugh came again, closer, right outside my bedroom wall. We didn't move, hearts pounding. Jamie whispered, "Maybe it's Dad." I shook my head. "No way, he's asleep." I peeked through the peephole, empty porch, stepped back inside, and the laugh rang again, right at the door. The next morning, I told my mom. She shrugged. "Someone walking their dog," she said. "Nothing to worry about." But that was just the beginning. Over the next week, the laughter returned, always late, always the same wrong, eerie sound. Then came the footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing along the side of the house, toward the backyard. One night, we killed the lights and huddled at the blinds. There he was, Mr. Benson, standing in the backyard, head tilted back, grinning at nothing. Eyes hollow, fixated on something only he could see. Jamie whispered, "Why is he just standing there?"
Silence stretched. Then he turned and disappeared down the street. The next morning, I noticed an old black and white photo hanging in the dining room, probably left by the landlord. A group of men in suits, standing in front of our house decades ago. My stomach sunk. One of them, unmistakably younger Mr. Benson. I showed my parents. "He's only lived here 10 years, Dad said." But I knew better. Weeks passed. The cold spots in the hallway grew worse. The heater worked fine everywhere else, but near my room, stepping into the hall felt like walking into a freezer. Then, one night, I woke, shadow at the foot of my bed. For a second, I thought I was dreaming, but it was him, Mr. Benson, motionless, hands in pockets, smiling silently in the dark. I froze, heart pounding. He didn't move, didn't speak. Slowly, he turned and faded into the shadows. The next day, I told my parents. "You're just scared," Mom said. But this wasn't fear I could explain. This was something else, something I couldn't put into words. Summer came. We decided to move. 2 nights before leaving, I woke to footsteps outside my window. Looked out. There he was, back porch, hands in pockets, watching silently. Same unsettling smile. Like he knew a secret I never would. We left that night, never looked back. Years later, I still wonder, was he a ghost, a man lost in time, or something darker? What I know is this: sometimes the people who seem normal aren't. And trusting your gut, especially when everyone else says it's nothing, might be the only thing keeping you safe.